Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's online event featuring an excellent panel who will be discussing internationally educated health professionals, how to support medical needs of newcomers in rural communities. Before we begin today's event, we would like to begin with an acknowledgement that N4 is hosted at CHIO, which is located in Ottawa, Ontario. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia, and we honor them in this land. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. As well, some of our panel is situated on Treaty 6 territory. We acknowledge that we must work with the Indigenous peoples and their communities to decolonize this country as they so graciously have shared with us. My name is Andrew Tomeyer. I'm the Education Coordinator with N4. I'll be hosting and moderating today's panel discussion. My co-host is Mariah Maddock, who will be monitoring the Q&A box today. I'm now pleased to introduce you to today's presenters. Presenters, I'm going to ask that you turn on your video as I introduce you. Jody Buchholz is the manager of the Local Immigration Partnership for Lanark and Renfrew. She leads a team of dedicated professionals working with community partners to establish goals and objectives and deliver on these expectations through activities and events that support newcomers in Lanark and Renfrew County. She holds a Master's of Education from Memorial University and is an MBA candidate with the University of Fredericton. With over 15 years of experience working in higher education at rural campuses, she has a passion for ensuring that rural communities grow and thrive, having lived and worked in the Ottawa Valley for much of her life. Thank you. Dr. Sam Odbede began his career through earning his Bachelor of Science in Medicine at the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. He moved to the United Kingdom and joined the Royal College of Surgeons in Edinburgh with a focus on hepatic surgeries and transplants. In 1999, Dr. Odbede moved to Canada, first as a family and emergency physician in Newfoundland and Labrador, and then to rural healthcare across Alberta. He's currently a professor and lecturer at the University of Alberta and University of Calgary, respectively, as well as a family physician currently within rural Alberta. Due to urgent situation as well in her job, our third panelist, Dr. Jill Conklin, is unable to attend this panel discussion today, but we thank Jody and Sam for being available for this. Today's session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our N4 platform. We'll share this with you as soon as it becomes available. Should there be any technical issues during this webinar, we inform you with details for an alternate makeup session. And before we begin today's event, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to our platform features to help enhance your participation experience. Throughout today's session, we invite you to rate your questions in the Q&A window. We know that sometimes many of you might have the same question or be interested in a particular response to a particular question. Today, you have the option to upvote a question, so please use the upvote so that we can prioritize which questions we pose to our panelists first. Our speakers today have no conflicts of interest to declare. So with that said, let's jump right into the panel discussion for today. And there we go. Let's jump right into the panel discussion today, where we will have two initial questions, and then we will open it up to the audience for some Q&A. And then with a few minutes left, we will wrap things up with a final question to our panelists. So to begin, we have our first panel question. First to Dr. Odbede. What are the benefits and challenges for newcomers to settle in rural and northern communities? I'm going to ask, you're muted right now.
Thank you to the panelists. I really appreciate being invited to this forum. I understand you guys have done a lot of work and putting a lot of efforts into doing this, and this is great. And I'm really pleased to be part of this. Going to the question of the benefits and challenges for communities, I think we need to break this down into, first of all, the benefits, and then we'll separate onto the challenges, and also subdivide it into personal challenges, career benefits, career challenges as well. When you talk about the benefits generally, when I say personal, I'm going to also group in that to the employee or the leader of the family unit coming in, and also taking into consideration the kids and their spouses as well. you got to look at the cost of living. The cost of living is next to nothing when you want to compare it with similar qualities of housing in an urban community. So the standard of living also is different. Cost of living is a big thing. Standard of living is also a big thing. Because a lot of these communities, rural communities, are small compared to the big urban centers, the sense of belonging is a lot more higher, especially see that community as home. The sense of belonging really is very, very high, and people are very welcoming as well. So the unit cohesion is very, very high there. So that brings a lot of personal satisfaction to yourself and to your family. Then you're also going to talk about security. Is way, way more or less.
Excuse me, Sam,
And
sorry.
social.
I'm just gonna ask if you turn off your camera. You seem to be having a bit of lag. Thank you.
Yeah, so this sense of belonging in smaller communities is way, way higher. And you also got to talk about security. Everybody's concerned about security, especially when you're moving from a distant country to a new country. Irrespective of what you've read about in the news, or we're going to Canada, you're going to so place, you need a sense of security. And sense of security is very, 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 very good in the rural communities, especially in northern areas. Violent crime is really, really non-existent. That's not to say you don't have violent crimes anyway. Social vices are also next to nothing, because in your communities, everybody knows everybody. Your schools, the teachers know everybody by name, they know everybody. So they do know when things are happening to your kids. And then if you are the outdoor enthusiast and you really like the outdoors, you like fishing, hunting, northern and rural communities are the best place to be. Personally, for me, what actually brought me out of England in 1999 was the outdoors. I visited and I said, wow, you mean this is how it is all the time? Okay, we do have the 4 seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. You get it all classic. But if you enjoy the outdoors, fishing, hunting, and there's no shortage of local community members who would take you out and show you around. So that's something else. And then going to careers, because you're coming to a community where you're really needed, your level of job satisfaction is very, very high. Everybody notices when you do things, and you're satisfied, and people are really ready to guide you. So you do get a lot of satisfaction from seeing that you're actually making a difference. You're not just one of the numbers, you actually make a difference. Pay and perks are way higher in the rural communities as well, because the community is putting a lot of effort to attract you. So the average pay for rural healthcare professional, even anybody, is higher than that you will get in the city. And when you compare that with the cost of living, you tend to find that you have more money in your pocket as what do you call that? Is it spare change? You have a lot more spare change in your pocket when you look at that. And talking about careers as well, you tend to have more opportunities to expand your career scope. And also the fact that there will also be less competition for you to progress, especially when you're working in a project and you think, wait a minute, there's a way we can make this better, we can expand this. And you find that your community is usually more supportive of your initiatives to expand. And that also enhances your career aspects as well. Talking about support for your career as well. If you need to enhance your skills, let's say there's a need for some more skills in wherever it is you're working, you want to go out there and say, I want to go for this training, I want to do this, you find too that the communities are usually more supportive. And those are the things. And coming down to the challenges, I'll break them down again. Sorry, I always like to break things down, probably due to my background in teaching. Challenges could be personal, family, and career. And then for personal reasons, you might feel a sense of isolation, especially if you come from a big social network from wherever it is you're coming from. The communities are small. You might not have people of your tribe and people who speak your local dialect, or people who have your same interests. But that is why you really have to do. What you can get around that is, you know where you're going into, research the environment, find out what you can get involved So there are a lot of people who are ready to make friends there. For your family also, it may be a challenge for your spouse and for your children. But children usually do find it easy to make friends, but your spouse may have difficulties. So there are ways to mitigate these. I mean, there are challenges, but they're not insurmountable. There are a lot of ways to mitigate this before you go into that community. So your spouse may feel isolated socially. There might also be employment issues. You might not have the same employment career that you have. And all these isolation and social isolation issues can often sometimes lead to mental issues and marital stress. And sometimes families do break down because of this. Then career-wise, because you might find yourself being the only person doing the work you're doing with little or no support, you might find yourself doing a lot of long hours just to get the job done. And this can easily lead to burnout if you don't prepare for it. The in-person interaction with your peers might not be there as well. You're going to find a lot of your peers are in the bigger cities, you're making a lot of phone calls, but you don't have that local colleague you're working with whom you can say, let's go to the pub or go to the bar and have a drink afterwards. That can be an issue, but that is not insurmountable. There are a lot of ways to get around that. And of course, networking with peers, that is the other issue there. I mean, these may be challenges. I've been there, but there are a lot of ways you can get around that. You just got to be prepared. I think that's what I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Obede. Yeah, there's quite a bit of benefit to being in a rural area, such as related to housing, related to potential, and consideration of one's family and spouse is very important as well. So I'll pass the question over to Jody. Again, what are the benefits and challenges for newcomers settling in rural and northern communities?
Thanks so much, Andrew. And to complement what Sam mentioned, I think there are many factors that contribute to whether immigrants choose to move to a new community. I think perception of the community, presence of obviously of family and friends, and other immigrants, that critical mass can be really advantageous. Of course, as Sam mentioned, the employment opportunities are paramount. Educational opportunities too. There are lots of rural communities that have wonderful universities and colleges, and really those can be considered a bit of a backbone to those rural communities, because that educational opportunity is really enticing to newcomers. But also access to cultural and religious amenities. And looking at employer support is a huge attribute for anyone, any newcomers who are looking to settle into a more rural community. But it's also that expectation of that small center lifestyle that really needs to be looked at from the onset. So, exactly what Sam said, that healthier living, that slower pace, cleaner air, some might say less stress as well, is really what's going to help with that greater sense of community overall, because everybody's looking to have a similar type of lifestyle. I will say personally, less traffic. I have lived in city centers and I have lived rural, and that less traffic, I think that adds about 5 years to your life immediately. And a little bit more personal space, that quieter lifestyle. I think when you take into consideration, and it's been mentioned already, but take into consideration that the housing costs in major urban centers really is outpacing the earnings of many people. Small centers, they can compete. They can attract newcomers with that affordable cost of living, but also those unique attributes that many of them have in that compelling lifestyle that really needs to be communicated and celebrated to newcomers who are looking for a smaller lifestyle center. But with all of those factors, there also comes those challenges. So many of the same factors influence the attraction, but they also determine whether or not immigrants are going to stay. And so some of those factors have been shown to really play a major role in an immigrant's decision to leave a community. And so looking at lack of large immigrant populations, lack of those cultural and religious amenities. You know, it's unrealistic to consider that someone's going to drive a couple hours to connect in a cultural and religious fashion. Lack of adequate settlement services certainly can be very, very challenging at times, especially when you are newly arriving to a rural community. Lack of fulfilling employment. So Sam mentioned spouses. We want to make sure that the entire family is being supported and looked after from that quality of life standpoint. And again, we talked about less traffic, or I mentioned less traffic. Inadequate public transportation can really be a barrier when it comes to rural communities because that it takes time to get licenses, to get set up with vehicles. And so having inadequate public transportation really does put a barrier, a challenge in effectively integrating into rural communities. And there are instances of racism and intolerance. And so when we look at smaller centers and urban centers, a fundamental problem on the onset is that at times, just for some, the term small center or rural has a negative implication. And so it can reinforce by the association between community size, economic growth, social vibrancy, and the decision to where to live is influenced by the size of a community and by the proximity to a major city. So just even thinking about a small rural northern community, any of those adjectives can be right off the top kind of seen as a detriment to that decision-making process. And with so many rural areas struggling to attract and retain working professionals, including physicians, including healthcare professionals, you know, it can be a very big challenge. You know, doing a little bit of digging in 2011, there were, and this goes out to my colleague who's at the University of Alberta, there were 591 individuals per physicians in rural Alberta, compared to 212 individuals per physician in urban Alberta. You know, that is a major difference. Mind you, those statistics are aged now, but I don't think probably much has changed if I were to look at it anecdotally. And so physicians in rural areas, they're challenged to find professional assistance and networks of other skilled healthcare workers. And there can be struggles with fewer networking and social opportunities. And so that's really where the community rallies to help address and help fill in for some of those social networking opportunities.
Thank you for that, and very poignant to discuss those various points related to not just the environment itself, but also just the culture that is and the connotation people have on rural communities. So thank you for that. So moving to our second panel question, what opportunities exist for internationally educated health professionals to contribute towards their community, especially within rural areas, and what barriers have been encountered which impeded their recruitment and retention into such communities? So I'll begin with Jody on this question.
Thanks, Andrew. It's a big question. I think that smaller communities in Canada, particularly those located in rural areas, they find it difficult to attract and especially retain healthcare professionals. So a good example of that is in 2016, the ratio of nurses and physicians in rural settings in Canada were 7.2 and 1.1 per thousand population, while those ratios were 11.7 and 2.6 per thousand population in urban settings. So again, I touched on briefly what those ratios were in rural Alberta, and this is Canada-wide. The ratios are just confounding at times. And so there certainly is a lot of opportunity to get those numbers up because we need to recruit, we need to create an environment where internationally educated healthcare professionals have can see themselves coming and helping to address those rule settings, those ratios that are just confounding. And that imbalanced distribution of Canada's healthcare professionals is especially problematic, given the specific healthcare needs and challenges of small and rural centers. COVID-19, the last 2 years, this pandemic has demonstrated what can happen to vulnerable communities when healthcare resources are inadequate. And so looking at the recruitment of internationally educated healthcare professionals may be one of the ways to help fill the labor shortage in small and rural centers. And to meet the changing needs of those communities, there are many policies and programs currently in place to recruit internationally educated professionals, such as the provisional licenses, the return of service agreements, that really focuses on the attraction, but not necessarily the retention of these individuals. And so the retention rates really appear to be struggling. And while healthcare labor shortages they've persisted, and it has been an issue for many years, and it feels as though it's kind of hit a breaking point over the last 2 years. There are many internationally educated professionals in Canada who are currently underemployed due to healthcare professionals, the challenges in obtaining the licenses to practice in Canada. Really, it looks like there's only about 55% of internationally educated medical graduates physically present in Canada who eventually practiced medicine in our country. And so, there are lots of campaigns that we're seeing in the public sphere to help address those challenges in foreign credential recognition. If you look at it similarly, there's about 30% of internationally educated immigrants who are working as nurses, nurses' aides, orderlies, patient service associates who have nursing degrees, with their skills being underutilized because, again, that foreign credential recognition and that transition is challenging. I recognize that there's quality assurance there, but there's certainly a stumbling block in the foreign credential recognition. And the licensing of individuals with foreign credentials and international experience is an added barrier to the recruitment of internationally educated healthcare workers. And it needs to be addressed in order to successfully attract, but again, also retain these professionals in Canada's small and rural communities. It's paramount.
Thank you. Very good points. And so I'll pass the question over to Sam.
Thank you. Yeah, Jody, you've made some very, very good points there. If I may go back to the opportunities and contributions, there's a lot of opportunities for new immigrants to contribute to the community or the communities they're going to be going to. A lot of these communities are underserviced, so they're usually open to new ideas. And if you're somebody with big ideas and you like to do things and you want to bring up your idea, you'll find that a lot of the time your ideas are usually very, very openly received. And your communities are often very, very supportive of any initiatives you have to improve on services. There's also political and social causes. If you're somebody who likes to pursue things like that, you like to make a change in your community, there are more opportunities in rural areas for you to lift your head up. You could go into politics, you could start a cause, start to campaign, you could do all that. And the contribution you can also make to the community as well is bringing in social diversity. Usually when you come in with your family, you come with your kids, sporting activities, all kinds of things. So those are ways you can really contribute. So there's a lot of ways you can contribute to the local communities. So in fact, the list is unending. But the barriers, we need to talk about those. Those are very big. It could be professional. It could also be community. Coming into such environments, there's always the fear of the unknown. That way people avoid rural experience. Then also you got to talk about your family. Your kids don't want to go to a small town. Your spouse doesn't want to go to a small town. What if I don't know anybody there? What if birds eat us? I hear the mosquitoes are big as dogs that they can eat you. Things like that. A lot of myths. It may be funny, but those are things that need to be addressed. There's also the fear. This is something I've noticed a lot among my medical colleagues. They're always afraid of making errors, professional judgment of whether they might be doing the right thing and all that stuff. So it all comes from lack of preparation. So those are often barriers. And of course, the registration, licensure from the local licensing bodies often are they're not very encouraging. Actually, they've been getting worse. I remember in the early 2000s, the licensing bodies were actually involved in making sure we got the right people, and they made things easier. They set up everything to make sure they integrate very well. Then as soon as they started having enough people, they started making it very stringent. And then a lot of the people who were already there they already done their contract, they moved out. But the rules haven't been reduced. The barriers you have to jump over have not been brought down to allow the right people to come in. Instead of focusing on just credentials, instead of looking at skill sets and for people who really want to be in the rural areas. So the licensing body is actually one of the barriers. That's something we need to address. From the community point of view, there's often that lack of community support for professional and social needs. People coming into these rural areas have professional needs, they have social needs, and a lot of the time, the communities are not aware, they're not involved in the recruitment of these professionals. So they come in, they're like, yeah, come on, live your life. But it's not like that. The community is involved in welcoming these people and making sure they stay, because if these people don't feel welcomed, they're just going to be their time, do their time, and then move out. And sometimes there's also the lack of awareness as well from the recruiting team and also the communities. There's also lack of social amenities and educational opportunities for younger ones and their spouses compared to the urban areas. Remember too, there are a lot of immigrants who are coming in from other countries, usually coming not from the rural areas, they come from the cities. So when they're coming to Canada, they're expecting to be coming to something better, like a bigger city than wherever they're coming from. So going to a rural area sometimes is seen as a sign of failure. So there's a way we got to sell that. We need to get the right blend of people to come in. So we shouldn't just get people who just want the job. You want people who want to come in and stay. But then how do they know whether they need to stay? We need to sell ourselves. That's where publicity and proper planning comes in. And so it's a team effort. It has to be a team effort from the recruiting community and the communities and the licensing bodies to make things easy. Of course, there has to be education as well. There has to be. In fact, this is Andrew, this is something we really need to talk about. It's not just enough to bring people in. You got to bring the right people in, bring people who want to stay, and give them the tools to stay. Since I came into Canada in 1999, I've been to several rural communities. Most of the ones that I left was because my spouse did not have a job, or my kids were not doing well in school, and my spouse pushes and I move on to the next place. And right now, I live in a rural community. I do part of my job in the city, which I drive. But if you have been well prepared, because even though I came from the city back home in Nigeria, I've had a very good experience of the rural life. So I know what it means to live in the rural area. Most people who are coming in have no clue about rural lives. I have a lot of professional colleagues who are here from Nigeria. They talk about snakes. They've never seen a snake in their life. I go hunting and I call some of my friends to say, come on, let's go hunt some moose. Let's go hunt there. I said, what do you think will happen if my family back home hears that I got killed by a deer? And people are going to say, what were you doing in the bush in the first place? So there's a lot of things, you got to prepare. You got to prepare the ground, prepare the applicants, and get them to see that this is a totally different lifestyle. Okay. That's what I would say for now. I can see there's a lot of questions in the questions group, and it'll be very interesting to address those. Over to you, Andrew.
Thank you. And to go back to what you were saying about being in a rural community, the physicians aren't able to second guess themselves or have trouble second guessing themselves because they don't have a colleague within their area. Has this pandemic, has the proliferation of Zoom, has that helped with reaching out to colleagues across rural Alberta?
It has. That has. It's brought a lot of our colleagues, together in a way, because now we talk to them, we ask for help and stuff. But it is also taking us away from our patients. Okay. There are two groups of healthcare professionals during the pandemic. Those who believe that the pandemic, if you see somebody who has COVID, who walks across your street, everybody in your family is going to die. Or those who just feel, listen, we're professionals. This is what we're trained to do. We have the job to do. We're out to care for people. We make sure we protect ourselves, but we're not going to isolate ourselves from the community and from our patients. So for those who have the fear themselves, it has really shut them off from their patients. And in fact, the pandemic has caused a lot of problems. I mean, we won't even go into that, you know. But thank God for Zoom. It has helped, but it's also caused a lot of problems, you know. Somebody comes in with some very personal healthcare issues. You're not going to say, wait a minute, can you put your butt on the camera? Let me have a look at it. You know, that's not going to happen. You're just going to go by what the patient is describing to you. And oftentimes they're wrong until you see them. It's like, oh crap, this is not what I thought you were talking about on the phone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And yourself, Jody, have you seen changes with the proliferation of Zoom and online use of online resources such as Zoom and similar?
Absolutely. We were part of a recruitment campaign in collaboration with Access Employment Networks, that's based in Toronto, to connect with some of their pre-arrival clients as it relates to healthcare professionals. And so not that these are new activities, but I mean, they're becoming more common that we can have, spend an hour presenting information on our communities, what it means to live in our rural communities, and really paint an honest and practical picture of life, and then have the opportunity to meet with those who are considering moving to our areas. They can meet with employers in breakout sessions thanks to Zoom. And so having that opportunity, so that they can start future newcomers to our area potentially can start to really imagine themselves working and living in a rural community like Lanark and Renfrew County in Ontario. And so we know Zoom fatigue is very real. I can attest to that. But it really has also opened up so many doors, so many opportunities for greater communication, so that we've talked about today. Setting the expectations. So it's one thing for you to be arriving in Ontario, or think that Ontario is the location that you want to arrive at. And it's another thing to see it and to hear from newcomers who are already in this area, to really kind of better understand what awaits you, so that you can make an informed decision around, is this rural lifestyle what you're looking for, even if there are those employment opportunities that are already here related to healthcare.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. And so we'll jump into the Q&A from our audience. And sorry, go ahead, Sam.
Andrew, let me just also add to, there's something also I wanted to point to. A lot of talking about healthcare professionals, those who are going to the rural areas, I think Jody did mention earlier that there are a lot of professionals right now languishing in the cities, waiting for licensure, waiting for the gates to open so they can start doing what they've been trained for. But there's a problem with that. A lot of these people are stagnated in the cities right now. They're living their lives. Some of them are there for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, waiting for their licensures to be completed so they can get to their jobs, and maybe some of them want to go to rural areas. Then you now find that these people spend so much time living
Apologies. I believe Sam just got cut off there for a second. It may come back, but very poignant response though. A very good response. Thank you for that, Sam. Apologies if it does come back very quickly, but let's jump into the Q&A piece as we have, and then we can return back to what Sam was discussing. So with respect to our Q&A, the first question that we have is what strategies can be used to attract newcomers to rural areas?
So
And
I'll
Jody, go.
dive in without stepping on Sam's toes. Hopefully Sam comes back. But I think looking at some of those strategies is really small centers, rural areas. They must be involved in making themselves stand out. No matter if you're in an urban center or a rural center, we typically tend to work very siloed, very isolated in our focused efforts. And so I think that some strategies that have been used to promote, to attract, to retain immigrants in small centers includes providing online information portals, welcoming community campaigns and events, employer support initiatives. We've talked about a little bit about incentives for relocation to small centers. These are all really great strategies, or I should say tactics in and of themselves. But again, if it's not a holistic approach, it does come across as very piecemeal. And so, and it won't be enough to reinvigorate those small centers. So I think that the main strategy that I would recommend, and I'm trying to put into practice, is taking a collective effort, or it will take a collective effort, I should say, to be part of the multi-levels of government. So business associations, employers, community leaders, everybody needs to be part of those conversations. So it can't, I think it would be ineffective for a local hospital or long-term care facility to try and launch a campaign on their own. It really does need to be a community-wide effort in order for there to be progress made when it comes to like an all-encompassing strategy to really make it a destination location for internationally educated healthcare professionals. And I see that Sam is back. I'm happy to see that.
Yes, welcome back, Sam.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Everything's just slowed down to the ground, so I
just as we're talking about the proliferation of Zoom, right? Must have heard us.
Well,
so the
that is one of the downfalls with
yes.
rural living, is that broadband issue. But
actually, I'm in the city. In rural Alberta, we have what's called the supernet. So your internet is actually faster in rural Alberta than it is in the city. I'm actually right now in the city.
Oh.
And my cellular Wi-Fi thing is shitty. Put it mildly. Okay.
That is okay. That's okay. But again, yeah, that's another point to consider, is the fact that the internet infrastructure isn't as widespread out in rural and northern communities. For example, I know that in Ontario, they're just releasing the initiative with respect to building better broadband within northern Ontario, for example. And just moving back to the question, what we were asking Sam was, what strategies can be used to attract newcomers to rural areas from your perspective?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, I have to draw on maybe 20, 30 years of experience in recruiting and trying to retain physicians. Now, everything has to come together. The licensing bodies need to be involved. The recruiters need to know, they need to be involved. And then the community has to play a big, big role. You also have to choose the right candidates. You don't want people who just want a living, a place to earn a living. You want people who actually have looked at that community because this is what they want. But at the same time, too, we also need to let these prospective applicants know that showcase what you have. Okay. All right, we live in a rural northern community. We may not have Costco and Walmart, but we do have IG. We have these. So Amazon will deliver stuff. These are the spots we have. These are the networks we have these are the roads we have for going to the city. And then also, it's not just enough to say, here you have a job. We need to find a way to support the applicants professionally, support their spouses, support their kids, and also continue to engage them. So one of the things I had in mind was we need to focus on welcoming and integration. And how we do that is you got to entice them, focus on the right fit, and then, of course, you prepare the groundwork for them to come in. Mentoring, you got to mentor them professionally. You educate them initially, and then continue with the education. Ideally, in choosing your right candidate as well, you need to make sure you have enough information about his social background. If somebody, let's say somebody comes from a very, very religious background, say in Nigeria, his daily activities to pray 5 times a day, do all that, and you come into a rural community. Most rural communities are very non-religious, very secular. Somebody like that is not likely to stay because he's going to want that interaction of having to go to the mosque to pray, or you want to go to see your pastor every day. Forget it. Don't even bother. It's not just enough to say this person has the right job credentials, but this person will stay. Because we spend so much money trying to recruit people, but we also don't spend a lot of money trying to retain them. But we have to attract the right person. We need to focus also on paid off time to alleviate stress and pressure from burnout and the families. We need to have all this in place. So the main thing, therefore, is going back to the candidate. We need to choose the right candidate. It's not enough to focus on their professional credentials, focus on their cultural background, focus on their social background and social needs. And we prepare that, and we should be fine. That's what I think. If necessary, we can do a pilot. So you choose an area and then do a pilot program and see how this runs on in 3 years and see what the level of satisfaction these people have going forward. Maybe in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years time, and see.
Oh, that sounds very, that sounds like a very good idea, good strategies and such. Moving to the other questions that we have. Do you have any examples where international medical graduates have successfully settled in a rural community and provided their services to improve health services across that community, including yourself, Sam? I know you're 20 some years as a IEHP. Your experience and your experience of any colleagues as well is greatly appreciated.
I will use mine as an example because I've really loved. In fact, I was driving to work today. I coming from the road just to come to the city here today. For about 30 minutes, my wife calls me and says, "Did you see this? Did you see this the sunrise this morning?" I said, "Listen, I have a meeting to go. I'm thinking about what I have to do." She said, "I took pictures. You got to see it." That's just by the way. First of all, my family, we love the rural areas. We love everything about rural areas. Like when I try to encourage my friends to come to visit, we have a small ranch outside of the city. And people are like, "How did you get this place? How do you choose a location?" I said, "Look, you got to use the PE test. If you can go out of your front lawn and ease yourself without upsetting the neighbors, you're in the right place." Okay, don't quote me on that, but that's just an anecdote. Okay. So I find that I had to really apply myself. You got to see the rural area as your home. Don't see it as the place where you're going to go make a living. You're going to a place to settle. Be prepared to settle and be prepared to contribute to the society. I've got so many awards for professional development, community development. And we set up daycares, charities, assist with the food bank drive. You assist with fundraising for equipment for the hospitals. And those are very satisfying to do. And the communities notice you're one of them. They look after your kids. You know, they look after your family. And that is home. You got to first of all see it as your home. And there is actually, I'll tell you, there is more. When I'm talking to my colleague, there's actually more satisfaction with life when you live in a rural area. It may be remote, but you have everything there. Internet may not be, in fact, I can speak for Alberta. We don't have issues with internet. Okay. But that's something, again, that the communities can also help to see that, look, yes, these people come from outside. They need to communicate and to connect with the rest of the world where they come from. So it's not really that big a problem. It can be surmounted.
Thank you. And Jody.
Yeah, this question really makes me think of, my organization's part of Algonquin College, and Algonquin College's Pembroke campus has the Bachelor of Science in Nursing program in collaboration with the University of Ottawa, and also has a practical nursing program. And so this question makes me think of one specific graduate in particular, whose name is Deva Louise. And so Deva Louise came from Cameroon. You know, she had a background in Bachelor of Science in Physics and Chemistry, and she came into our Bachelor of Science in Nursing program, completed that program, and extraordinarily amazing and smart woman. And so now she's continued her studies, and she's a nurse practitioner. You know, she has a background in critical and emergency care, complex care, palliative care, occupational nursing, and she also teaches as well. And so she has made a huge impact in our community, coming in, identifying the Pembroke campus as the location where she wanted to study. Did she initially know that maybe she was coming to more of a rural campus? I'm not sure necessarily, and it hasn't been smooth sailing all the way through. One of the questions in the Q&A is around those instances of racism and discrimination in those challenging times. And they happen. That is unfortunately a reality, but I would say that is the reality, whether you're talking about a rural center or an urban center, that these, hateful instances exist everywhere, unfortunately. And so looking at Deva Louise, who has made the Pembroke area her home, she has been in our community, fully integrated, in working hard to make sure that her community members are safe and have the healthcare needs that they need, especially, again, given that she's a nurse practitioner. She's also addressing some of those physician gaps that we're experiencing. And so and Deva Louise is one of several internationally educated healthcare professionals who have graduated from our community colleges and universities.
That's some excellent examples.
Yeah, let me speak to that. I think when I was looking at some of the questions, there was also the issue of systemic racism and all that stuff. It is going to happen. Even within your family, there is racism. People don't like you. And there will always be racism when you're different. A lot of it is out of ignorance, and you can only make it worse by isolating yourself. People don't know. I have a lot of patients who come in. You've provided a lot of brilliant healthcare to them. Some of them will stop you and say, "Excuse me, Dr. Betty, you mind if I touch your hair?" That's when I had a lot of hair, of course, a few years back. I said, "Sure, yeah, touch my hair." You have to go out there and let them know that you are different. Yes, but you're not different. You have nothing to be afraid of. You are who you are. You can only enhance and feed into that ignorance by isolating yourself. And that is what it is. And this is something we need to address. We cannot sweep it under the carpet. It does exist, but a lot of it is out of ignorance. And when we choose the right candidate, we need to plan all this into part of the introduction and orientation to say, look, we know you're different. The kids are going to be different. You're going to have different ways of pronouncing the things. It exists, but it's your responsibility, and we can show you how. Put yourself forward. Let people know you that, listen, you're not going to eat their dog. You're not going to eat their cats. You're just normal like everybody else. And then the other thing also is, this also comes back to retention. A lot of IEHPs have multiple degrees and multiple training backgrounds. Like Jude, like you said, that successful story of the lady you talked about, a lot of background in physics, chemistry, and all that stuff. Yet they want to be nurses. But are they doing the nurses because it's just a way to get by? Do they really love that initial training they had? I can say for myself, I have a background in general surgery, but I also have a background in a lot of teaching. And then I did family medicine. The rural communities that I chose, I made sure they have operating rooms because I could still apply those skills. The short stint that I did in Grand Prix, which is a city, lasted 2 years because I worked there, but all I could do was family medicine. But I needed a place where I could still apply my skills in emergencies as a surgeon. And that is why I moved back to the rural area, because those are skills that I didn't want to leave alone, because people know me elsewhere as a general surgeon. And you now come in and say, oh, what are you doing? No, I just write prescription for a living. No, that's not who you are. So we need to also address that. If somebody says, oh, I was a basketball coach for many years before I went to nursing. When you recruit that person, you recruit them to a nursing society or community. You want to make sure there are areas where they can use those skills, because that's who they are. They will always feel that they've lost something, and they will always want to go back to where they can apply those skills.
Oh, very good. Yes. Yeah, of course. Of course, very good. And just looking at the time, I think we have enough for one final question. So one we have here from our manager, Sahar, the practice readiness assessment in rural areas for IMGs is an effective path to meet the needs of these areas, but it's unclear who gets accepted into these programs. What are the requirements? Are there agreements that you are aware of between Canada and certain countries to enroll IMGs from these countries into these programs as well, with respect to getting a full license?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
I'm one of the, with the College of Surgeons and College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, I'm one of the provincial physician assessors. So we have the practice readiness assessment and also the supervised practice assessment, which you do after 3 months. The emphasis, I understand the emphasis is okay, but sometimes we miss the whole thing. A lot of the people coming in have no clue. They just know their job, but they know nothing about social integration and the nuances of community and everything. So they come in, they pass the exams, and they go in there, they just want to get out because they have not been prepared. And we've had a few meetings at the college where some of us assessors have said, listen, once we choose these guys, we should not be going there to assess them on how well they memorize the algorithms and all that stuff. Once they've been accepted, we should focus on preparing them. Not just, of course, we're going to be assessing them too. We should be preparing them on how to survive in the areas. I don't know how it's done in other provinces. I don't know much about Alberta. We have to change the whole focus altogether. And some of my colleagues also agree on this. We need to focus on preparing them to succeed, not preparing them to fail.
And I'd like to just answer that question from a slightly different perspective, because the physicians area is not an area that I've become super familiar with, because we are focusing our energies on nursing staff and things like that. And so a similar program would be, or organization, I should say, in Ontario is the Care Center for Internationally Educated Nurses, who have that bridge training for internationally educated nurses across Ontario. And so I think that having that liaison between that, who serves as that transitional coach into from country of origin into the Canadian healthcare system, and in particular the Ontario healthcare system. I think that those are really important organizations. We know that, you know, pan-Canada, that there are all different kinds of requirements across each of our provinces, and having these organizations who serve that function of transition models, transition coaches, I think is super important for getting our healthcare professionals positioned to be successful in their transition to the Canadian healthcare system. And we have seen some really good strides again with the Care Center for Internationally Educated Nurses.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. And that seems like a very good time to wrap things up. So before I go to our closing remarks, are there any final points that you would like to add, Jody or Sam?
Jody, you go first.
I'll dive. Yeah, I was going to say I'll dive in. I really do think it's important for there to be investments in small and rural community healthcare education, and building off what Sam said, in high volume immigrant countries of origin, and to recruit internationally educated healthcare professionals from those small and rural communities in these countries, because you want to make sure that the fit is there, and so that there is transparency around, this is what you can expect in the rural communities. These are the challenges that you're going to face. These are the deficits that you're going to face. There are going to be deficits, but there are a lot of really encouraging factors that do lead to a really empowering lifestyle. And so having that those expectations set from the very onset of the recruitment process, I think is really paramount to a successful transition. And then to the point again around rural communities and growing diversity is having that those training opportunities available to our smaller communities, so that there is mutual kind of meeting in the middle for integration and settlement, so that there is an awareness. If you've got a new doctor or a new nurse who's coming from Cameroon, learn a little bit about Cameroon, and really again have that holistic approach, because it's going to lead to the retention, and all of the effort will pay off.
Absolutely. I wish I could add more to that. You know, that is brilliant. You just well summarized. It's you can't take anything out of that. Preparing them is very important. You've got to have a period of integration and transition. Prepare the candidate for the community, not just the candidate, but see him or her as a social unit. You've got to prepare them, and let them look forward to going to that community. It's not going to be perfect, but they have to see the positives and focus on the positives as well. And if they really want to get it better, challenge them. Challenge them and say, look, you guys can set up, raise the bar for us. Set it up the way you want it. Let them own the problems there too. Let them be part of the solution.
Thank you. Thank you. That was excellent. Excellent from both yourself and from Jody. And so to wrap things up, I want to thank you very much. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Sam, for taking time to participate in today's discussion. And many thanks to the audience as well for joining with us and engaging with us today. We've had an excellent conversation about this. And if you missed any part of this presentation or would like to watch this session again, we'll be posting this to our N4 platform within the next week or so. As well, with continuing this dialogue, we very much want to continue the dialogue that this panel has discussed. This panel discussion has started. And so we'll be moving any of the questions, which we received many, to the online moderated discussion forum called the Meeting Place when the session is posted. We've invited Jody and Sam to respond to your questions here when they become available. We've also curated several resources related to today's webinar topic, and you can find these in our resource toolkit, and we will be linking them when we share the on-demand version of this discussion as well. So if you haven't yet, please sign up to newcomernavigation.ca. I believe Mariah has put a link in our chat as well to sign up and join. And following this session, you'll receive a survey for your feedback, to share your feedback with us. These surveys help us continuously improve and seek out new webinar content and opportunities that are responsive to the topics that you as an N4 member or as an N4 associate are interested in. So we kindly ask that you please follow that link and complete this brief survey. As well, please check out our new mobile app. It's available on Apple and Android devices today. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. Thank you again, Jody and Sam. And we hope that you can join us again at any future N4 event as well. Stay safe, stay well, and thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.